Hey, what's up? It's Privacy J here. It's time for another Sunday's live stream. Now, I just want to tell you, listen carefully because it's due to the the movies, the videos because of the storage issues on my laptop because of the crash. So yeah, because I don't know what's going on with it. I'm not able to upload it. So how to do it? So here's how things work with the video. So we will explain later about this. So now before we go over to the topics, I just want to say the um June 8th is the graduation, and virtual night prom is on June 18th, right before that. So, because this is my opportunity. So, and also, I'm gonna make an announcement for today. So no content on August on this, but no, no content on September, October, November, and December. But remember, also this year, for this year, September, October, November, December, no content for this year. And for 2021, for 2021 year in review will be coming on in December 30th, and content will return in 2022. So content will be stopped until August. So that's an announcement. So we're gonna move on to the things. Now I'm gonna show you guys on my document that I created too. Now here are some of the videos to what to expect for this week. So Monday is the big piano at Macy's flagship. On Tuesday, unknown escalators at Macy's flagship. Wednesday is a Staten Island ferry at the Governor's Island. Thursday is wooden Otis escalators on Macy's flagship. All of these, so yeah. And on Friday is the premiere. It will be on a full ride at the NYC ferry. So that's all for this week's video. Now let's go over to the COVID numbers and updates and vaccinations. So here are the total hospitalizations. Yesterday, total hospitalizations yesterday was 1,583 total hospitalizations. Is dropping, and it's doing good these days. It's that's going to get to know so far. That's dropping so far. Wow, those rates. Now, the vaccination update is 17,555,423 total doses administered. 105,999 total doses administered over past 24 hours. 61.6% of New Yorkers at the age of 18 with at least one dose. 51.9% of New Yorkers at age 18 and up with completed vaccine series. 49.8% of all New Yorkers with at least one dose. 41.6% of all New Yorkers with completed vaccine series. So that's all the governor's the COVID updates and vaccination updates. Moving on to the health data. Oh, it's doing good so far. Wow, it's dropping. Wow, look at all this, bro. Look at all this, man. That's it's doing good 2 days. It'll return to normal. Going back, bro. Doing good. Yeah. Now let's go over to the timelines of the subway. So here are the subway service timelines that they did on the workers during this COVID-19 pandemic. So on May 6th this year, it was 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. closure begins. On June 23rd, it was the 1 million daily riders. On February 2020, on February 22nd this year, it was the overnight closure reduced. It was on 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. And on April 8th this year, it has 2 million daily riders. And tomorrow, it will be 24-hour service returns tomorrow. It's going to be restored. Let's go over to today's topics about what to get to know about tomorrow's returning 24 hours subway service to restore. It's going to be lifted. So here it is, guys. I'm going so that's going to be our today's topics for tomorrow's. There's going to be returning people of the riding of the subways. So listen carefully. I'm going to read this. Full overnight subway service resumes for the first time since May 6, 2020 of last year. Subway ridership surpassed 2.2 million passengers per day in May. MTA continues its historic disinfection and cleaning effort. More than 75% of MTA customers agree the subway have never been cleaner. Mask use remains mandatory. That's a mask mandate in the MTA system. All right, narrator, you take turn to read.
The Metropolitan Transportation Authority, MTA, today announced the return of 24-hour subway service starting at 2 a.m. on Monday, May 17th as New York State continues its economic and social reopening. The subway system was closed overnight for the first time in the agency's 116 years on May 6, 2020, to allow the authority to undertake an unprecedented cleaning regimen to protect employees and customers from COVID-19. When it began, the closure covered 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. On February 15, Governor Cuomo announced a partial resumption of overnight service, reducing the overnight closure in half, from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. The resumption of overnight subway service comes as subway ridership is trending upward towards a recovery. On Friday, March 12th, subway ridership hit the 1.9 million mark for the first time since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic a year ago. On April 9th, subway ridership surpassed the 2 million mark, and on Monday, May 10th surpassed the 2.2 million riders, a new single-day record. The news comes on the heels of the authority's multifaceted communications and marketing Number Taketh Train and Number Taketh Bus campaigns aimed at bringing customers back to the system, which was introduced today. Thanks to Governor Cuomo's leadership and the hard work of New Yorkers, the resumption of 24-hour subway service and reopening of New York have been made possible, said Patrick Foy, MTA chairman and CEO. We owe our heroic frontline workforce a tremendous debt that will never be repaid in full. They kept this city moving when it needed them most, and will continue to be the heroes moving heroes. The subway returning to 24-hour service is a signal that we are closer than we have ever been to normal life, said Sarah Feinberg, interim president of NYC Transit. We would not be at this point without the sacrifice and dedication of the whole NYC Transit team. It is thanks to their heroic effort throughout this pandemic, coming into work, moving essential workers, keeping the system as clean as it has ever been, that we can return New York City to the city that never sleeps.
Keep on going, narrator.
Prior to the pandemic, average weekday ridership totals on subways routinely exceeded 5.5 million. That figure fell by more than 90% to a low of roughly 300,000 daily trips last April as the number of COVID-19 cases peaked in the New York City area. The low point of bus ridership was 278,067 on Sunday, April 12, 2020. Average weekday ridership in April 2020 was 463,763. MTA employees continued to provide service for the frontline healthcare professionals and other essential workers who needed to get to work during some of the most troubling days in New York City history. The unprecedented cleaning regimen on subways, buses, paratransit and commuter rails will continue. Stations will be disinfected at least twice daily and rolling stock at least once daily. Since the May 6 closure a year ago, the MTA has piloted disinfecting methods such as ultraviolet light, antimicrobial sprays which will allow the disinfecting to remain at high levels. Masks are still required while riding mass transit. Mask compliance on subways and buses has been nearly universal with 98% compliance on subways and 99% on buses. In an effort to get New York fully vaccinated and reopened, under the leadership of Governor Cuomo, the MTA partnered with Selmos Community Care, Northwell Health and Westchester Medical Center on 8 pop-up vaccination sites throughout its operating region. Customers and MTA employees can get vaccinated at the sites. Anyone who received the vaccine at these pop-up locations received either a free 7-day Metro card or free round-trip Long Island Railroad or Metro North ticket.
Hey, what's up, Hamza? We're just reading the articles about the MTA, about the tomorrow's return to subway service 24.7, 24/7 to return. So yeah. All right. As I was saying, let's get back to where we are. This effort to help get every New Yorker vaccinated comes as the authority gets its workforce vaccinated. The MTA has stood up employee vaccination sites throughout its region. More than 30,000 employees have received at their least their first dose of the vaccine. Okay, Hamza. Narrator, you're next.
The MTA will also continue to protect its employees and customers with personal protective equipment. So far, the authority has acquired nearly 27 million masks to date. In addition to the over 8 million masks available for customers, the authority has also made available 750,000 2-ounce bottles of hand sanitizer. Additionally, the authority has distributed to its workforce 18.7 million masks, 20.3 million pairs of gloves, 122,000 gallons of hand sanitizer, 260,000 7-ounce and 2-ounce bottles of hand sanitizer, 13.7 million individual sanitizing cleaning wipes, 277,000 gallons of cleaning solution, and 18,000 face shields.
All right. So that is your MTA updates about the 24.7 subway service returns to get the full ride. So move along to COVID back to normal updates. So here is an update about the COVID-19 updates. So why it will be so hard to transportation back to normal life after the pandemic. So how do we return to normal when the pandemic is over? Experts have a few suggestions, but I know it won't be easy. So yeah, we'll keep it more an update for that. So narrator, you read.
At this point, it feels like a bit of a truism to say that the pandemic has caused undue harm on our mental well-being. Its effects on different demographics, people with a history of anxiety and depression and people who only began experiencing it during the pandemic, the old and the young, students and workers, are well documented. A report from the National Institute of Mental Health indicated that nearly a third of all Americans have experienced signs of anxiety and depression in 2020, nearly double the rate of the year before.
Keep on going.
Even lawmakers have gotten involved. Since Amy Klobuchar, DMINN, and Tim Kaine, D. Virginia, introduced legislation in March to study the pandemic's long-term effects on Americans' mental health.
Next paragraph.
But as we begin our return to a semblance of normalcy, as more people get their vaccinations, so much about the state of Americans' mental health will remain unknown. Kevin Martin Antshell, a professor of psychology at Syracuse University, told SFGATE that much of the challenge that will come with our re-entry is the anxiety of the unknown. I suspect uncertainty and intolerance of uncertainty is going to be a recurring theme, Antshell told SFGATE. UCSF psychology professor Elisa Epple concurred, noting that the feeling of hope will be washed down with feelings of anxiety and disorientation. Many people feel disoriented because we are not here or there, we are on the bridge to a different future full of unknowns, she said. Given the unpredictability of the past 14 months, Antshell acknowledged that an anxious response is completely understandable, and anticipates that people will have a bit of a struggle adjusting to normalcy when it seems that doom and the grief of the pandemic still linger. One study by the Associated Press and the University of Chicago estimated that almost a fifth of all Americans have a close friend or relative that died from the coronavirus. Another estimate found that a third of all Americans know someone who died.
Next paragraph.
Appel also expressed concern that people who have experienced mental health and addiction in the past had a rough year before them. People who have vulnerabilities to depression, addiction, anxiety, this has indeed been a trying time to prevent relapses, said Epple. As clinical psychologists, we talk about how anxiety lives in the future and depression lives in the past, Antshell said. And so the more you think about the future and the uncertainties and unpredictability associated with it, the more anxious you're going to get. Returning to normal, he says, is more difficult among people with predispositions to anxiety and depression. While some accounts found that people who have experienced mental illness in the past may have been better equipped to deal with the pandemic, Antshell fears that people who have a history of anxiety and depression will lean on avoiding a return to normal. It's not uncommon among most people to take an avoidant approach to things that make us anxious, and this works well as a short-term coping strategy. The issue is that this tendency becomes more and more ingrained with each avoidant decision.
Next.
What I'm concerned about is that people are going to be anxious about leaving their apartment or their house, and so they're going to elect not to, Antshell said. And that's going to result in a temporary reduction in that anxiety about going out, but unfortunately that's going to reinforce or strengthen that behavior of being reclusive and being on your own and being kind of isolated. Others that are particularly vulnerable are the young and old, groups that have had to deal with greater impositions of isolation and loneliness over the pandemic. Young people endured losses in socialization with remote education, while the elderly were isolated for the year out of safety concerns pre-vaccine. So, that means that for a lot of people in the middle, the so-called sandwich generation of people roughly between the ages of 20 to 60, the onus has been on them to be a support system for both groups. But that responsibility also weighs down on this group. This goes double for parents of children, Antshell says. Probably 90% of the time that I have an anxious child in my office, there's an anxious parent, Antshell, who specializes in child and adolescent psychology, says. And so a lot of times those anxious parents unfortunately reinforce the avoidance. They communicate to their child anxious cognitions that unfortunately the child internalizes, and then the kid doesn't want to go to school.
Next one.
It's a rough portrait of our past and present life under the specter of coronavirus. But we'll still have to exist and keep going and pushing through now that the worst of the pandemic in America looks like it's over. So what can we do for ourselves to ease in? For one, it's worth evaluating the adjustments that the pandemic has thrust upon us that are actually beneficial, the experts say. Think more family time, less traveling, hybrid work for those who have that option. Anshel describes it as positive reappraisal, the idea that accepting something for what it is doesn't necessarily mean I have to be enthusiastic about it. I need to be resilient enough to think about things in a balanced way that allows me to have probably a better perspective. I can't tell you how many families I have heard say this on their own, and Shell said. They said, COVID has really brought our family closer together. COVID has allowed us to spend more time together. COVID has really eliminated the rat race in which I was constantly transporting my child from activity A to activity B. And for people experiencing anxiety about re-entering society, Anshel says exposure is the best way to embrace a comeback.
Okay. Next one.
For example, if you're afraid of traveling post-pandemic, take a trip, albeit carefully and with safety measures in place, and Shell suggests. The more you hold yourself up and say, I am just not going to travel, the more anxiety is kind of going to be. It's going to make room, it's going to settle in, and you're going to have to start to charge rent. And, for those who are in charge of taking care of other people, especially parents, there's power in therapy and other strategies to buttress your own mental health to reinforce healthier habits in others. I think that parents really need to take care of their own mental health because before they can be effective and help their children manage their anxiety, they need to manage their own anxiety, and Shell said. Perhaps most crucially, there's power in reorienting any uncertainty and doubts about the future into hope and optimism. There's hope, Apple said. There's hope for a better future, for incorporating the wisdom of lessons hard learned. Hope for a better future for our children, that the bad habits, depression or despair will dissolve when school is in person again, and that they will catch up and become more socially connected again.
All right. So, next topic. The outlook is brighter for the U.S. of COVID-19. That's on. It's why school life may return to almost normal in the fall. Um, that's why I haven't taken turns to read, but I'm gonna let you read.
CNN this week marked a major shift for the COVID-19 pandemic in the United States, and much of American life, including the classroom, could soon start to look much the way it did pre-pandemic. After more than a year in which many students were learning remotely, children and educators should expect to return to in-person and full-time classes, U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky told ABC on Friday. We have the capacity now, between vaccines and testing, screening, we believe schools can and should be a very safe place for people to go back to in the fall, Walensky said. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration and the CDC this week expanded authorization of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine to people between the ages of 12 and 15, the first vaccine authorization for adolescents and young teens. And on Thursday, the CDC announced major relaxations to mask guidelines for fully vaccinated people, saying those individuals can ditch the masks indoors and outdoors, except for certain circumstances, introducing a benefit for those who are immunized against COVID-19 and another incentive to those who remain hesitant about getting vaccinated.
Next.
People who are vaccinated should feel perfectly comfortable in going indoors without a mask, Dr. Anthony Fauci told CNN's Wolf Blitzer Friday. But while many things are changing for those who have been vaccinated, those who are not may find things looking much the same as they have for the past year, experts said, and that could extend to students in the classroom.
Next.
Children who have not yet been vaccinated will still need to wear masks in the classroom, Fauci said, adding that he could almost guarantee most schools will require it. Even vaccinated teachers may still be wearing masks if they are around unvaccinated students, vaccine expert Dr. Paul Fitz said Friday. If you're around a large number of children who are not wearing masks, who certainly can get this infection, roughly 24% of the infections currently in the United States are in children. I guess, were I a teacher, I would choose to wear a mask, Fit told CNN's Anderson Cooper. How do you feel about the CDC's new mask guidance? It means a lot to get vaccinated. Teen says just over 47% of the total U.S. population has received at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccine, and about 36.7% of the U.S. population is fully vaccinated, according to data published Saturday by the CDC. Among those ages 12 and older, 55.7% have received at least one dose, and 43.5% are fully vaccinated. Among them is 14-year-old Lucas Broombach, who got a shot Saturday at Balboa Park in Encino, California. He's the last member of his family to get vaccinated, after his parents and two older sisters.
Next.
It means a lot, he told CNN, adding it's mostly a matter of convenience. Once he's fully vaccinated, he won't have to worry as much, he said, and life will just be easier, pretty much. Now he's looking forward to visiting family in Northern California. I'm just glad, his father, Steve Broombach told CNN of getting his last child vaccinated. I want to get back to normal. I wish everybody else would go and get vaccinated and not have any reticence about doing so. There are 500,000 12 to 15-year-olds in Los Angeles County. Barbara Fair, the director of the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, told CNN, and vaccinating them will give them the chance to get back to the things that they love. They want to hang out with their friends, and they don't want to be worried, and they want to go to parties again, and they want to go to activities, she said. A lot of them are playing sports, and they want to make sure they can go ahead and have all of the excitement that comes with being on a sports team without all of the worry. Meantime, officials have been strategizing on how to convince more adolescents to get vaccinated, especially as it usually involves having to convince their parents. Nearly all states require some form of parental or guardian consent for vaccine providers to administer COVID-19 shots to adolescents ages 12 to 15, a CNN analysis finds.
Next.
Solving social isolation from remote school. The effort to vaccinate children and adolescents could have just as big of an impact on their social health as it does on their physical health.
Excuse me, in case I missed it, so let's try it again.
But there are a few exceptions. 5 states, Alabama, Iowa, North Carolina, Oregon, and Tennessee, either allow some ages in that group to consent for themselves or leave requirements up to individual vaccine providers. Another focus for officials is ensuring vaccines are given to 12 to 15-year-olds in an equitable way, the CDC's vaccine advisors said Friday.
Next.
While many students will recover academically, one of the worst aspects of remote learning has been the loss of in-person social interaction, American Federation of Teachers President Randy Weingarten told CNN, and resources will be needed to address that. There are some kids who did very well on remote, Weingarten said, but what's really been lost is the peer-to-peer contact. What's really been lost is the prolonged effects of social isolation. She also noted the pandemic has highlighted the huge inequities within the education system and that it was crucial to provide more resources to schools that weren't doing well before COVID-19.
Next.
Where states stand on mask guidance following the CDC's decision Thursday to advise that masks do not have to be worn indoors for those who are vaccinated, many state leaders quickly revised their own guidance. After holding back to review the CDC guidelines, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper said Friday the state is relaxing its COVID-19 measures. Effective immediately, we are lifting all mandatory capacity and gathering limits and social distancing requirements, and most mandatory mask requirements, Cooper said. That means, in most settings indoors or outdoors, the state of North Carolina will no longer require you to wear a mask or to be socially distant.
Next paragraph. Narrator.
Colorado also initially paused any changes, but Friday Governor Jared Polis announced that the state is moving from a mask mandate to a mask suggestion. We are thrilled with the recent CDC guidance, Polis said during a Friday press conference. We are able to really embrace this science-based judgment by the CDC, which we agree with. Costco also said Friday customers who are vaccinated against COVID-19 can shop without masks at U.S. locations where there are no state or local mask mandates. Most of the people in restaurants are eating and drinking, and so when you go into restaurants mostly what you see are people at their tables without their masks on, and that's appropriate, and that's what the directives say right now.
Next paragraph.
Travel hitting pandemic-era highs despite relaxed mask guidelines. Whale and Sky made it clear this week that masks are still required for transportation, including air travel. And Sarah Nelson, international president of the Association of Flight Attendants, told CNN those rules will continue to be enforced. In the airports, we have no way of telling who is vaccinated and who is not. The rules have to be the same for everyone, she said, adding that refusal to comply could carry up to a $35,000 fine and jail time. But that's not hindering travelers. Air travel continues to soar, according to the Transportation Security Administration, which reported 1.71 million people traveled through U.S. airports on Friday, the second highest number of daily travelers during the pandemic. The pandemic-era record for air travel was set Thursday, when the TSA said it had screened 1.74 million people. That eclipsed the previous record set last Sunday by about 36,000, an indication that Americans are increasingly eager to travel. CNN's document 1, Paul Verkaman, Virginia Lang Maid, Lauren Mascarenhas, Deidre McPhillips, Jacqueline Howard, Maggie Fox, Taylor Roman, Kelsey Smith and Holly Silverman contributed to this report.
All right, last topic. Before we wrap up. So this is the last topic. Some people still need to mask up even if vaccinated. Are you one of them? Okay. So I'm not gonna read it. I'm not gonna read the whole thing. So I'm gonna let you read again one more time.
People who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 no longer have to wear masks inside or outside, nor do they have to stay 6 feet away from others, according to new guidance released Thursday by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Go ahead.
Does that mean those Americans vaccinated at least 2 weeks ago, meaning full immunity has kicked in, can't throw their masks in the air and hug all in celebration? Not quite.
So, people vaccinated against COVID-19 can go without masks indoors and outdoors, CDC says. You're next.
You do have to mask up on public transportation or if required by laws or regulations. That would apply to hospitals, nursing homes and other healthcare settings, and even some local businesses and workplaces. Kids still have to mask up to go to school. Then there is this warning. If you have a condition or are taking medications that weaken your immune system, you may not be fully protected even if you are fully vaccinated. Talk to your healthcare provider, the CDC said in the new guidance. Even after vaccination, you may need to continue taking all precautions. On CNN State of the Union Sunday, CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky said that immunocompromised people should consult with their physicians before deciding to stop wearing a mask, but others, including those at higher risk for severe COVID-19, may want to do so as well. For the most part, studies emerging now suggest immunocompromised people or those on medications that interrupt their immune system, for example, people who have had organ transplants or are on chemotherapy, may not have as much protection from COVID-19 vaccines. At least one study suggests dialysis patients also may not be as protected, she said.
Next paragraph.
There are a number of conditions that can weaken immunity. What's the science behind CDC's decision to say fully vaccinated people don't need masks? Some diseases, like HIV/AIDS, can completely devastate the body's ability to fight infection. Organ transplant patients must take daily medications that suppress the immune system to keep it from rejecting the new organ. And chemotherapy works by killing cell growth to keep cancerous cells from multiplying, thus weakening the immune system. In addition to chemotherapy, certain types of immunotherapy, stem cell or bone marrow transplants, and other medicines can severely weaken the immune system, said Laura Makaroff, the Senior Vice President for Prevention and Early Detection at the American Cancer Society. People who are severely immunocompromised are told they must remain fully masked and take extra precautions to be protected from all manner of pathogens, and they wish the rest of us would mask up.
So some people may still need to wear masks. Our lives and to protect them too. Go on, narrator.
Common conditions that weaken immunity. Many common diseases and conditions that affect millions of Americans can weaken the immune system, typically to lesser degrees. The body may respond listlessly to invaders, making it more vulnerable to infection and viruses such as COVID-19.
Keep on going. Wait, does this mean the pandemic is over for vaccinated people? Let's find out. So go ahead, narrator.
Diabetes, for example, can lower immunity. There are 34.2 million people living with diabetes in the US. Another 88 million have prediabetes, according to the CDC. Not all of them have frail immune systems, but some do. One of them is Alyana Booman, who told CNN last August that worry over COVID-19 left her very on edge. I get sick really easily, she said. I cannot fight off anything to save my life. I start puking everywhere. It's a terrifying thought. Obesity can be tied to feeble immunity as well. Over 40% of Americans are obese, as can chronic kidney disease, liver and heart disease, and old age. When it comes to cancer, both current patients and survivors should check with their doctor before removing masks and other protection, Makeroff said. For people who have a weakened immune system, either from cancer itself or treatment, you may be not fully protected even if you are fully vaccinated. It is important to talk with your healthcare provider about which precautions you still need to take, she said. Heart disease is the #1 killer of men and women in the US, but unlike cancer, the medications used to treat heart disease, for the most part, are not immunosuppressive and should not pose any particular risks, said American Heart Association President Drive Mitchell Elkind. Patients with heart disease are at increased risk of adverse outcomes from COVID-19, but they have the same benefits from vaccines as those without heart disease, Elkin said. We recommend that patients with heart disease who have been vaccinated and are not immunocompromised for some other reason follow CDC guidelines regarding wearing masks and social distancing, he said. Because pregnant women are at higher risk for severe COVID-19, Walensky said that the CDC is encouraging them to get vaccinated, and the decision to go unmasked would be an individual one. Autoimmune medications. Millions of Americans live with common autoimmune conditions such as psoriasis, rheumatoid arthritis, scleroderma, inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis and lupus, said Dr. Cedric Jamie Rutland, a pulmonary and critical care physician. In autoimmune disorders, the immune system goes awry, mistakenly ordering its army of warriors to attack the person's own body. Medications often used to treat autoimmune disorders are built to suppress that overzealous immune response. But it's not targeted. Instead, the drugs weaken the entire immune system, leaving the body vulnerable to upper respiratory and urinary tract infections, pneumonia, skin infections, and, of course, COVID-19. A few studies have also found that by dampening immune response, people who are on medications for autoimmune diseases may not have as strong of a response to the COVID-19 vaccine, said Rutland, the medical director of the Rutland Medical Group in Newport Beach, California. A small study of 26 people with inflammatory diseases found levels of coronavirus antibodies were slightly lower in those patients compared to others, but no one was a complete non-responder. A larger study of 133 people found a threefold reduction in antibodies to COVID-19 compared to healthy controls, with some medications, such as glucocorticoids, worse than others. Still, the antibodies found in patients on medications were comparable to patients with rapid recovery from COVID-19 and may, therefore, provide sufficient humoral protection, the study said. The study was a preprint, meaning it has not been vetted by a journal for publication. While vaccination appears to be effective, Rutland said he plays it safe with his patients. I take them off of those autoimmune medications before they get vaccinated, so they can have the appropriate immune response, he said. In the end, how do you decide if you fit into the category of weakened immune system? How can you know if you should think twice about joining the maskless masses? What we would recommend is certainly for people who have immune-compromising diseases or on those medications to consult their physicians, Walensky said. Really, again, not everybody has to rip off their mask because our guidance changed on Thursday, she said. So, yes, if you are concerned, please do consult your physician before you take off your mask. CNN's Ryan Pryor and Virginia Langmaid contributed to this report.
All right. So that was your Sunday's live stream for today. Everyone should wear your mask. It's gonna be remaining in effect. So because remember, COVID's not over yet. Keep wearing your mask. Practice social distancing, and all other people said it. So we gotta be careful out there and stay safe and all of that. So remember, because remember that day, because back in a previous live stream, because the vaccines are still working on it, because they announced about the vaccinated at City Field. Don't you remember? And I will let you know when. So yeah, I know, Hamza. That's coming soon after we that's so yeah. I second vaccination. So all the bros should get vaccinated. And I will let you guys know when all about it. So stay tuned for the next Sunday stream. So keep that in mind and keep you posted and keep you updated. So and be safe out there. So if you're going to subscribe for more content, it's Privacy J Productions and the Privacy J Productions 2. All of my social medias will let you know all about it. Facebook, my name is Jaden Garcia, and Instagram is JTech727. Snapchat is Scoots0727. and follow me on Twitter at PrivacyJNYC1 because that's gonna be a wrap up for today's video. So today's stream. So stay tuned for next stream on Sunday. So thanks for watching and peace out.